40 minutes had passed. We had pretty much 80% ball possession, 0 attempts at goal, and that tells you all you need to know. What's going on, people? Welcome back to League M for the match review. Crystal Palace 1, Chelsea 3. This is a game where we expected to go in and get something out of it, come away with all the 3 points. We were very much happy with the starting 11 because it was a pretty much unchanged 11 from the one from midweek. And when the game started, it seemed as if we were in control of the game. We had most of the possession, but as the game progressed, you could see that we were actually void of ideas as to how we're gonna penetrate Crystal Palace and create chances and just do something. It almost seemed as if we were back to square one in terms of the trend this season, Chelsea not being able to play against deep blocks. We really looked hopeless in that first half. We looked like we couldn't do anything. We were actually playing into Crystal Palace's hands because on top of us not being able to go through them or play through them, there were several mistakes which we could have paid dearly for. And that is actually how we conceded the first goal of the game. Madueke, being too casual on the ball, had his back to goal. I do not know what he wanted to do there. He loses the ball. Caicedo tries to get it back, fails to get it back. Jefferson Lerma is in acres of space, enough time to line up a shot, and what a shot that was. What a shot that was. What a goal that was. No one stops that, granted, but all of that could have been prevented if Madueke had just been more decisive in what he wanted to do on the ball at the time. But that was a peach, I'm not gonna lie. And after the goal, it was more of the same, what we were seeing in the first 25 minutes, just nothing penetrative. We just looked devoid of ideas as to how we're going to get back into this game. 40 minutes had passed. We had pretty much 80% ball possession, 0 attempts at goal, and that tells you all you need to know. On top of that, the setup in possession as well, it was actually the worst. Caicedo was patrolling in and around of our back line. I wonder why that was. Enzo was nowhere to be seen in midfield. Like, his presence in midfield was essentially just Caicedo having to screen the back line by himself, actually screen our half by himself. Madueke was not playing in the right half spaces enough in order to give Gusto more space on the wings to operate. It was just, it was a shit show. I honestly don't understand the setup. We had our first shot at goal after 45 minutes. In that first half, it was one of the worst offensive displays I've ever seen in recent years for Chelsea. This is, it really was a new low. In the second half, changes were made. Madueke was subbed out for Nkunku, and immediately you could see the difference. Attack, we were actually playing with more intention. Seemed as if players understood their roles a bit. I guess subbing out Madueke for Nkunku was a brilliant call from Poch, because now it meant Palmer would shift to the right. Palmer, we know he likes to cut inside and operate in that right half space, and that actually gives Gusto some space on the wing so he can provide the width, work in conjunction with Palmer to actually create problems for Crystal Palace. And from that is where we actually got our first goal. Not even 2 minutes into the half, we get our first goal. Gusto with a wonderful cross, met by Gallagher of all people. We really need to just talk about Conor Gallagher for a second. As much as the majority of the fan base does not really, not that we don't rate him, we just don't think he is suitable for, when you talk about the squad profile and the players around him, you see that there's just some attributes that the other players provide that Gallagher can't. But at his game, he's one of the best. That we will give him. For what he provides, he's actually a top player. And last night was sort of like an example of that. And on top of that, there were goals into his game. We know that Conor Gallagher is capable of scoring goals. He has an eye for goal. We've seen it in his loan spell at Crystal Palace. And I think the majority of the fan base will agree with me that that is what we wanted to see from him. Not just the work off the ball, we also want to see you actually contributing in offense as well, with the goals and the assists, because we know he has that in his game. And it really looked like for a while that he wasn't going to score a goal in a Chelsea shirt because of how he's being utilized. But last night was brilliant. He scored 2 brilliant goals, and he deserves all the credit for last night's win. After the equalizer was scored, we almost went back to what we saw in the first half, whereby there were actually no ideas as to how this Palace defense was going to be penetrated. Like, more often than not, you could see that we tried to create a bit and put some pressure on the Palace defense, and in other spells, there were some spells where we couldn't really just go for the progressive pass or the line breaking pass. There were certain players that should be getting on the ball, not getting on the ball. Nkunku had to drop deep in order to receive the ball and link up the play, not really getting into the end of anything because there wasn't anything to get in to the end of. You understand? That lasted up until the final minutes of the game. In stoppage time, Conor scores another goal. We thought that was the game, but in mere moments later, we find ourselves in a 2v2 situation. Palmer carrying the ball into Palace's box, laying it off for Enzo toying with the defender and the goalkeeper and just sending it to the corner of the net. I enjoyed that goal, I'm not gonna lie. Just like that, it was 3-1. The game was done, even though it was a better display than we did in the first half, with the right substitutions being made and the setup being corrected. The first half was inexcusable. I put that down to the manager. We need to come to grounds against teams that play with medium or low blocks, better prepared to know what we have to do if we encounter such situations, because what we saw in the first half really cannot be the norm. I do not accept that, and that needs to change. At the end of the day, a win is a win. We have to take that. We have to move on and look forward to the other fixtures in the season. We have City next at the Etihad, and can't really tell you what's going to happen then. City are in a title race, and they're definitely going to want to keep pressure on the leaders. And as much as I do not want to lose to City, I think the probabilities of that are very high. So I'm going to approach that game with cautious optimism. They're really going to take us down again, aren't they? Anyways guys, that's it for today's video. I'd very much like to know your thoughts on the game. I want to know who was your standout player. How do you fancy Chelsea's chances against City? do let me know in the comments. Please do not forget to like, share and subscribe if you're new. And thank you for watching. I will see you on the next one. Keep it M.